So the new lore trailer for Shadow of the Erdtree dropped this week, and it gave us all sorts of information, however vague. But before we start, I want to say I'm not really a lore guy, so I don't want to give the impression that I've studied this too much, but I wanted to give my initial impressions and thoughts about what the DLC is going to look like based on this trailer, and talk about a specific concept I'm hoping they'll explore. First off, the opening seems to depict Marika's ascension to godhood through some sort of seduction and betrayal. Whatever she's reaching into seems vaguely womb-like and draped in a cloth that looks to me like it could possibly be godskin, though I'm not especially confident that's the case. After taking the strands of gold, Marika walks over a mass of corpses and holds the strands up in a shape that is reminiscent of the Elden Ring. With the corpses piled on either side, it appears she's creating the Erdtree, as the opening looks a lot like where we enter the Erdtree and find Marika. At this point, the trailer talks about the creation of gold also creating shadow. I have seen it speculated that the Land of Shadow is some sort of spirit realm, and this line gives a little more weight to that theory. Specifically, there is something that has bothered me about Elden Ring's lore since before release. When we first saw the symbol of the Golden Order, the interconnecting rings, there was speculation it would relate to Berserk, as so much Souls lore does. The relation revolves around Berserk's depiction of the interconnectivity of the different realms, where each realm has the potential to overlap with another, as well as beings having the ability to exist in multiple realms simultaneously. But the base game never really got into any other realm of existence, instead focusing on the relationships between all the various factions in the lands between. We've heard about the demigod children and the shattering and the physical nature of their conflicts, but next to nothing about other planes of existence or where these godly powers came from beyond the Greater Will's actions through Marika. I am personally hopeful that the Land of Shadow will exist as an astral world, with the area where the DLC will take place acting as an interstice, the low point of that astral world where it overlaps significantly with the physical world of the lands between. I could be reaching, but it makes sense to me. Just the imagery of Marika climbing the corpses to attain her ascension feels so much to me like Griffith and the Eclipse, an act that itself brought the astral world to overlap with the physical in a very chaotic fashion. Demons and magic became commonplace, bringing great power and terror to a realm once dominated by men. The trailer doesn't give us too much information though, but it does say specifically that as gold rose, so too was Shadow born. I'm taking that to mean that by stealing grace and embracing the Elden Ring, Shadow was given physical form. This reminds me of outer gods, who don't explicitly have a physical form, but absolutely exist. For example, when Mohg reaches into the Formless Mother and pulls out their blood as an attack, I've always taken it as him reaching into an overlapping astral world across a barrier that can only be breached by magic or metaphysical forces. Similarly, I don't think the Formless Mother has any specific location relative to the physical world. It's stated that Mohg encountered the Formless Mother underground, but the magic works for the Tarnished in any location. This all makes me believe the Land of Shadow is some type of interstice, or at least contains one, where the physical and astral overlap. To further this point, later in the trailer the narrator discusses Miquella abandoning their physical form along with everything else, including their fate, presumably as Saint Trina, to pursue their goal. But if physical beings can travel to the Land of Shadow, why did Miquella need to do this? Possibly this is a trait unique to Miquella's eternal youth or some other limitation that prevents physical traversal? Or maybe at some point either after Mesmer's tyrannical flame war over the Land of Shadow or Marika's creation of the Erdtree, the way into the Land of Shadow was locked or lost. It could be that Miquella needed to become a spirit, take on a purely metaphysical existence, to travel into the Land of Shadow, and by following in their footsteps, we Tarnished, as physical beings, can follow. To go back to Berserk, conceptually, a creature's ego can only travel so deep into the astral world before losing any sense of individuality. What we see in the trailer suggests to me that all of those events are physical. Marika's taking of grace, Mesmer's war on the Land of Shadow, the followers of Miquella tracing his residual grace. Since these are things we, as players, are expected to encounter in some form, I suspect it can't be all spirits all the time. Beyond Marika's ascension to godhood reminding me of Griffith, so does Miquella. In fact, I am constantly finding myself confusing Miquella and Marika as the same person. I don't actually think they are, but I think it makes sense that Miquella is trying to repeat what Marika did. The formation of the Erdtree, the multiple identities, acting as an Empyrean to attain godhood, it all feels like a like-parent, like-child scenario. Vati made comparisons between Miquella and Griffith in a recent lore video, and I'm in agreement. The pretty boy with grand ambitions, manipulating the hearts and minds of others to get what they want, inspiring love and awe in those who follow them. If the trailer does depict Marika's ascension, we can presume Miquella's would not be so different, costing countless lives for the sake of power and a new form. That's all just to say that I'm assuming the Land of Shadow, at least the part we'll traverse, is an interstice where the spirit and material worlds overlap, and Miquella was essential in establishing the transition into that overlap. It's even possible that all of the Lands Between is part of that interstice, and that what we are considering the Land of Shadow is just a deeper portion that has been concealed. Another thing in the trailer that stood out to me was how imposing Mesmer is. The guy has fire snakes flying through the sky and leading the flaming wicker men in battle against the Omen-esque forces. Him clearly earning his Impaler moniker by putting his enemies on spikes. It's very draconian, very Dracula. I am a little confused about how he impaled the lion dance creatures. I was assuming they would function as multiple people inside, but if they're the ones on those spikes, it's not clear whether or not multiple bodies are present. I guess you can see the robes connected to other spikes, so maybe they impaled them while they acted together and just left them loosely connected. I could be misreading that, but it stuck out to me. I also wonder what exactly Mesmer's role is in regard to Marika. We know he's one of her children, but the timeline is murky. The war is happening right after the presumed creation of the Erdtree, but because it takes place in the Land of Shadow, I'm not certain about what purpose it served. My initial thought was that it might be a war to subjugate the Crucible and its people, and the fact that they now only exist in the Land of Shadow might be related to Marika veiling the land to hide it away. Why she'd want to hide it away and leave Mesmer to possibly guard it, I assume it might have something to do with it being a place where godhood can be attained. Maybe she wanted to prevent others from achieving what she achieved, and the fact that Miquella is aware of all these events in some capacity would suggest that they know exactly how to achieve godhood. It's also possible that it's just being concealed to cover up the war crimes, or maybe in an attempt to prevent aspects of the Crucible from spreading. Whatever the reason, I'm sure it's important, or else I can't imagine making your war god son stay there forever and otherwise pretend he doesn't exist. There is still the question of who impaled Marika in the Erdtree, and Mesmer is a likely culprit. It's possible there was some sort of conflict, falling out, or maybe an attempt to restrict the Greater Will acting through Marika. This would also pose Mesmer as a strong opposition to Miquella, and no matter how powerful Miquella might be, Mesmer might be capable of stopping them so long as they have a physical form. I'm just blindly speculating, but there is precedent for infighting between demigods. Miquella's goal could be to liberate Marika, and if Mesmer stands between him and that goal, abandoning a physical form might be the best way to get around a losing battle. The trailer does suggest that Miquella's followers may believe their leader abandoned his goal, and they choose to follow in his footsteps undeterred. What those footsteps lead to for lesser beings, I am not sure. I'm also wondering if those golden standards that are almost certainly Miquella's great rune might act like those white trees that use footsteps to lead us to secrets. Maybe interacting with them will show us Miquella's golden footsteps and lead us on the path. I wonder if we'll be following a golden trail and finding each of the NPCs shown along the way, each giving some little insight into their relationship to Miquella and his goals. I still have no idea what the Shadow Tree is, if it's just how the Erdtree looks when viewed from the inside of the veil, acting as a dark half that's otherwise unseen. The golden sap running through looks like grace, and the way the destroyed city floats up toward it could suggest that it feeds on destruction in some capacity. The war Mesmer waged is referred to as unseen, which suggests it occurred while the veil was up, or possibly that it was just unseen to anyone not directly involved. It's also said it can't be put into song, further suggesting a secret or horrible nature. Who Marika betrayed or who she was betrayed by is a mystery, though I suspect it may be another god that existed before her, possibly without form. There's so much about the formation and birth of gods that is unclear in this game, and I'm really hoping we get some further elaboration. It's the sort of thing where I usually think less is more, but in this case, I wouldn't mind them laying out the birth or ascension of a god. That was a really great conclusion to Bloodborne's Old Hunters DLC, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got an encore of sorts. Beyond that, the trailer was mostly just cool. Lots of powerful imagery, lots of implications, and lots of obscurity and narrative. Typical FromSoft stuff. I'm excited. I know my last video was a little more negative, but I really do love this game, and the DLCs for Souls games are always the best parts. I'm a little sad they haven't said anything more about mechanics, which just confirms for me that there aren't going to be any changes. In any case, I'm sure it's going to make for a fun few months. Otherwise, those are all my initial thoughts on the trailer. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Like I said, I'm not much of a lore guy, but I do obey Souls YouTuber law and must therefore make content around any new game or DLC information. I'm sure my rambling will be better conveyed or contradicted by creators with a little more time on their hands. I'm far from certain about any of these ideas, but if you think there's any merit to the ideas around the Land of Shadow being a spirit or astral world, or if you have your own theories, please leave a comment down below. We're less than a month away from getting to find out for ourselves, and it's finally starting to feel real. Until then, thank you for watching.